All right, lesson 6.2, we're going to deal with solving equations by multiplying or dividing. And so when we get into our goal here, that's what we need to be able to do, solve equations using multiplication and division. Now, just like 6.1, we need to recall that the use of inverse operations, again, operations that undo one another. And so we're going to begin with, in this particular case, situations where we're going to solve an equation using multiplication. Okay. So in this particular case, we also have to recognize something about fractions, because you'll notice this fraction notation. Okay. Fractions are division problems. Okay. That's one of those things that you have to understand when you see a fraction. One of the ways that we can think of a fraction is the numerator divided by the denominator. Okay. So what this is saying here, this is h divided by -3. That's what it means, equals 6, okay? It's just not written left to right, it's written up and down, okay? But what we have to do when we solve this equation, just like we did in 6.1, is recognize, okay, what is going on here? Divide. How do I undo division? What is its inverse operation? Well, the opposite of divide is multiply, okay? So the first thing I know when I solve this equation is, one, I better use multiplication. And two, what is the opposite of divide by -3? Well, the opposite of divide by -3 is multiply by -3. Now let me go ahead and get rid of this. So I know automatically to get rid of this division, I'm going to have to multiply both sides of this equation by -3. And remember, hands-on equations, if we in hands-on equations, that's part of the reason that we're going away from the hands-on equations. It's sort of difficult to show, and I guess we could do it this way. H divided by -3, that would be on the one side, and then the 6 would be on the other. This is a -3, very poorly written 3. Okay, well, whatever I do to this side, I have to do the same thing over here, or the balance tips. So if I multiply this side over here by a -3, I have to do the same thing over here. Sorry, this is supposed to be times -3. When I do that, I have to do it to both sides, or my balance tips. Remember, you have to keep balance all the time. Now here's what I'm going to do. Okay, one of the things I want you to get used to doing. This is a fraction, okay? So I'm going to multiply this fraction by another fraction. Well, what is the fraction version of -3? Well, it's -3 over 1. Any whole number or integer can be multiplied, or can be made into a fraction by placing it over 1. Now, the reason I'm having you do that is if you go back to your basic fraction rules, we are allowed to cross-reduce, cross-simplify, cross-cancel, whatever terminology you want to use when we multiply fractions. So you'll notice here my -3's will cancel each other out, and the only thing really left here is h. Well, technically it'd be h over 1, but what is h divided by 1? Well, that's just h. So basically what I have here is h. Now, on the other side, okay, if I multiplied this side by -3, over here I will also multiply by -3. Now, I don't have to use the fraction version over here because this is not the fraction version, so I don't need to. But what is 6 times -3? Well, 6 times -3 is -18. Okay, so now I should check it. So I'm going to go back to the original expression, but I'm going to replace h with -18 and c. So -18 and c, does -18 divided by -3, is that equal to 6? Okay, are those equal? If they are, I've got a good solution. If they're not, I have a problem and I need to go and do something else. Well, well, 18 divided by 3 is 6. Negative divided by negative is positive, and so you'll notice positive 6 equals positive 6. We're good. Okay. My equation here, b divided by -4 equals 5. So when I look at this and I go, okay, I'm going to isolate my b here, I need to get rid of divide by -4. What is the opposite of divide by -4? Well, the opposite is to multiply by negative 4. Now when I do that, and because this is a fraction, I'm going to use the fraction version of negative 4. Okay, that would be being placed over 1, so that I'm allowed to use my fraction rules and cross-cancel the negative 4's. You'll notice the only thing left here now is b. Awesome. That's what we want. Now, because over here I multiplied by negative 4, on the right side I also have to multiply by negative 4. 5 times negative 4 is negative 20. Now I need to check my work. Let me find a writing utensil that will work. So go back to your original equation. Replace b with your solution. So negative 20 divided by negative 4, is that equal to 5? Well, 20 divided by 4 is 5. Negative divided by negative is positive. 5 equals 5, and we are good. Okay. So we have to undo multiplication with division. Okay, we have to undo division with multiplication, which is what I should have said here, because that was what was going on. We had divide, so we multiply. Okay. We're going to go the other way now. Okay. So in this particular case, I have 12 times h equals 48. Okay. So I have to realize here, well, there's multiplication going on between them. So how do I undo multiply by 12? Well, I'm going to divide by 12. One thing that I want you to do, because, well, one, it's neater, and two, down the road, it will help you when you're solving your equations. Use the fraction bar for divide. Okay? Just like in the previous problem here, they were using the fraction bar for divide. I want you to use the fraction bar for divide. Do not use this. Get rid of it. Throw it away. Okay? So now, the opposite of divide by 12, the opposite of multiply by 12 is to divide by 12. 12 divided by 12 equals 1. 1h. Good, because that's what I wanted, 1h by itself on the left-hand side of this equation. Now, whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So because I divided this side by 12, I will divide the right by 12. 48 divided by 12 is 4. I hope you knew what the answer was before we even started that one. But now let's check it. Take your solution, put it back into the equation for h, and see if your solution balances the equation. So 12 times our solution of 4. Is that equal to 48? That is the question. Well, 12 times 4 is 48. 48. That is equal to 48. Awesome. Checks. Now, just because here in this particular problem I switched and I put the the variable on the right side of the equation, it's no big deal. We want to get b by itself. Right now b is being multiplied by 5. How do I undo multiply by 5? I divide by 5. So I'm going to divide both sides of this equation using the fraction bar to show division by 5. 5 divided by 5 leaves me 1. So 1b here. On the right-hand side in this case, no big deal. 35 divided by 5 is 7. b equals 7. Let's check it. So go into your original equation, which was 35 equals 5 times b. b in this case is now 7. Are those equal? Well, that looks like 35 over here on the right, 35 on the left, and magic. Okay, wait. Math is not magic. 35 is equal to 35. Our solution works. So again, get used to using inverse operations. Get in the habit of noticing what operation is happening in this equation, and my job is to undo that operation to solve the equation for the missing value. So, all right, your turn. Go do a little work. Please, please, please come see me if you have questions or when they arise.